Sup everyone, this is Dimitri, and today we're going to be going through one of my subscribers' workout plans. And in case you don't know what I'm talking about, in it I asked my subscribers to send me their workout plans, so we're going to go through one of them right now. Before we get started, please like the video and subscribe and leave a comment for the algorithm to help the channel grow. Now let's get started. The first thing to look at when assessing any kind of workout plan is obviously the person's background. And what we have here is a 70-year-old male who has basically had no experience with resistance training up until about 2 years ago. So what we can infer from that is probably we're not gonna be going to Mr. Olympia anytime soon, so the training is gonna be a bit on the easier side, a bit less volume, and recovery is gonna be a pretty big issue. Also, just a side note from me, huge respect to you for caring about your own body at such an age, and I really hope that you stick to it, and I hope that more people follow in your footsteps. This is actually really motivating, so respect. Also, an important piece of background information is that he's had an Achilles tendon injury recently, ironically doing CC cable squats from the Brick 20, which are supposed to be safer, but actually not. And this just goes to show that it's not that good of an exercise as you might think, and it's not as safe as you might think. So anyway, let's take a look at the actual plan. He has attached a log of a whole month of training, but unfortunately the resolution is not that great, so hopefully I'll be able to make out as much of it as I can. So apologies in advance if I get anything wrong, and maybe you could correct me in the comments. So let's take a look at the actual plan. Frankly, it kinda sucks, but don't take it the wrong way and don't feel bad about it, because this actually means that there's a lot of room for improvement, and hopefully you're going to be seeing quite a bit more progress if you implement some of the tweaks which I'm gonna recommend further down the line. In this plan, each muscle is hit twice in an 8-day period, as he puts it. So on Sunday he does arms, and then only on the next Monday he does arms again, which is really a big issue, because most likely your arms are going to be recovered a day or two at most after you hit them the first time. So basically there's a whole 6 days of downtime where you're not growing, and you might be even losing a bit of muscle. So obviously the split is going to be the first thing to look at, and considering you're not training legs for a while, maybe you could do something like alternating push and pull sessions throughout the week, so training every other day. So, and as I said before, you should be hitting every muscle group at least twice per week. So for example, on Monday and Thursday, or Tuesday and Saturday, whatever else. 2 times a week is the bare minimum, especially for natural training. And circling back to the injury, whenever you do recover, you could consider doing something like an upper-lower alternating split, so doing upper, then rest, then lower, then rest, then upper, rest, and so on and so on. Maybe you could also include some of the upper body exercises on the lower day, for example, like training your arms along with your legs, or your shoulders along with your legs. That might be a good idea for splitting up the volume fairly evenly between the 2 days. There are 2 things that I want to touch on in this plan, and those are the exercise selection and the rep schemes. Let's talk about the exercise selection first. Alright, so since this person is clearly time constrained because he only does 3 exercises per day, it might be a pretty good idea to include some compound exercises to hit the muscles which are not going to be adequately hit by the Break 20 exercises. But the issue with that is that the person in question is not as young as me, and he might not be able to tolerate a lot of heavy barbell exercises. So what I would recommend considering is something like a pre-fatigue technique. So you could do an isolation movement like, let's say, a dumbbell press or a cable press, and then move into a a close grip bench press to hit the pecs again for more volume and also hit the triceps. Maybe you could do something like a leg extension before doing the squats, or you could do a sissy squat before doing squats. Something to pre-fatigue the muscle before hitting it with the compound movement. What this will help you achieve is still hit some of the other muscles which you will be participating in the compound movement, but also you're still going to be limited by the target muscle, and you're not going to be able to use nearly as much weight as you would be, and so you won't be able to incur nearly as much damage to your joints. So, for example, one of your sessions could look something like this. If you first do a cable press for your chest to isolate it and pre-fatigue it, then go into a close grip bench press, where you are probably going to be limited by that pre-fatigue chest, but you're also going to be hitting your triceps to a fair amount. And then you do something like a dumbbell curl, bringing the dumbbell all the way up so that your front delts are going to be hit as well. It's a really short workout, just 3 exercises, but it's going to hit all of those muscles really well and in a short amount of time. And so for the set and rep scheme, what I assume he's doing here is doing a lighter set at about 30 reps, then increasing the weight, doing less reps, and so on for about 5 sets. It is something that Doug recommended at some point and said he was toying around with, but if I recall correctly, if I understand correctly, he moved on from that and doesn't recommend it anymore, because, and I don't know if that is the reason why he doesn't recommend it, but this set and rep scheme doesn't really make sense, because you should really be most recovered for the heaviest work, that is lower rep work. So if you do 30 reps, then 30 reps, then 25, then 15, and I'm assuming he goes up in weight every set. What you're gonna accomplish there is you're gonna flood the muscle with the metabolites, you're gonna tire out the motor units, and when you get to the actual heavy work, the motor units are just not gonna be able to fire as much, and you're not gonna be able to incur as much of a hypertrophic stimulus, because they are gonna be flooded with metabolites, and they won't be able to fire as well as they could. So based on that, I generally recommend a somewhat normal rep scheme that is starting at, let's say, 12 reps and then going based off of your fatigue to maintain the similar reps in reserve throughout every set of the exercise. So what it might look like is doing 12 reps, then 11, then 10, or 12, then 10 to 8. It doesn't really matter as long as the reps in reserve are the same, or the proximity to failure is about the same. In my opinion, that really is the best rep scheme, because it accounts for the fatigue which you accumulate throughout every set, and it ensures that every set is just as hypertrophic as the previous one. What you could also do is do some downsets, so instead of decreasing the rep amount, you could decrease the weight instead of increasing it. So for example, you could do 200 pounds for 12, then 180 for 12, then 170 for 12, something like that. Alright, and a few minor points that I wanted to touch on, and that is doing AMRAP sets and AMP training. I can see this guy doing some AMRAP sets throughout the program, and I just generally wouldn't recommend doing them at all, especially considering the excessive fatigue which they will incur and just a general increased risk of injury, especially considering this person's age. I would generally just recommend sticking to 3 to 4 reps in reserve on every set, just so that you don't hurt yourself. And you're still probably going to get a fair amount of hypertrophy from working in that intensity range. And the last thing is ab training. I can see this guy training abs quite a bit, but one thing that everyone should realize is that ab training is not the thing that will give you abs. The thing that is gonna do that is your diet. So if you remain in a caloric deficit, you are gonna be losing fat and showing off those abs. Don't get me wrong, it's absolutely fine to train your abs, but just don't think that it is necessary and needed to get a six-pack. And on the topic of ab training, I can see this guy doing a lot of what he calls plank challenges, and I'm gonna be assuming that it is actually for a challenge and not actual development of the abs. And so this is perfectly fine if you want to do that. If you want to, prove a point to someone, or just to challenge yourself, that's perfectly fine. You just have to keep in mind that you won't get that much hypertrophy out of doing some things like plank challenges. Alright, so that's pretty much it, and I hope this video was useful to you. I'd really like to hear your feedback in the comments down below, so please do leave a comment if you have anything to say, and if you don't, you could just say algorithm for the sake of the algorithm, to help the channel grow. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye.